starting superior to inferior, top down. You know, in the skull, we actually have multiple bones fused together, and at a later time, we'll learn the specific names of them. We do not need to start with the specific names of them. The mandible is the name of the jawbone. And then the spine is made up of multiple smaller bones called vertebra, V-E-R-T-E-B-R-A. Sometimes you'll see that with an E, just as plural, more than one. There's 3 sections of these spinal vertebra up in the neck, just like the name of the region of the body. What's the region of the neck called? Cervical, beautiful. So those are called cervical vertebra. And in the area where there's ribs, what is that area of the body called? Thoracic, beautiful. See how it all comes together? You guys are rocking it. Thoracic vertebra. And in the low back area, what's that area called? See, I promise this would all come together. Lumbar vertebra, beautiful. And then there's this big triangular bone at the base of the spine called the sacrum. Yep. This is very palpable and an amazing area for massage. We will learn how to release fascia in this area. As we've already kind of given you little previews of, many people, women tend to have this tendency more than men, have an anterior pelvic tilt. And in that pattern, particularly this fascia around the sacrum and low back gets very tight, and that's a beautiful area to release. Also a beautiful area to release for menstrual cramps.
Why do women tend to tilt that way?
Yeah, and during pregnancy, there's the extra weight. Other times we already have, women already have a bigger anterior pelvic tilt to begin with, which kind of sets that in motion. There's a different angle here at the pelvis, and there's a different angle of these hip bones called the Q angle. And that all kind of sets up a tendency to go forward more. So men tend to have a 0 to 5 degree angle here, and women tend to have a 10 to 15 degree, but can go much more than that. Yes, which makes things challenging in space, right? As soon as you throw off the posture in space, everything is compensating, right? So for an example, a muscle that should act as a quick mover or a phasic muscle might be employed as a postural muscle all of a sudden. Yeah.
So are you saying that anatomically that creates problems for women that men are less likely to have? So that it in a way a little bit of a design flaw, even though it probably helps with babies in some way?
Well, I wouldn't go so far as to call it a design flaw, but that's just me. It can set up a tendency. I would say probably it's more of our activities of daily living, like the sitting too much or the way we sit. If people are doing different activities, they're less likely to be in that postural issue. But
the feminine body versus the masculine body, if that's the way I would say that. Being that we have that tendency, it sets us up for a little bit more of an issue, doesn't it? With other, like, does it, I should rephrase that, like, does it set us up for more of an issue with muscles and things like that?
I think physiologically, you know, kind of assigned female at birth and assigned male at birth bodies have sort of different tendencies. And so, I mean, I wouldn't say one is better or worse than the other, but maybe sort of different, more common challenges. And so, yeah, the hip design and the breast design, right, is brilliant for procreation. And but it can, with a different Q angle and whatever, set up certain things. And so women, for example, tend to have more instability in their pelvis. The sacroiliac joint can be an unstable point. But these are just tendencies, possibilities. They're not foregone conclusions. And when we look at like pathology as a study, right? I mean, there's certain conditions that are more common for women and certain conditions that are more common for men. And, there's just differences. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you. I was kind of.
You bet. At the base or inferior to the sacrum, and on this person, it's been cracked off, so it's not here. But there would be a little coccyx, which is multiple bones fused together. So on this diagram, it's this little bone right here. And we don't palpate that low. It's like right where the butt crack is, the gluteal cleft, and we don't touch there. But we do work all the way around the sacrum, and this little coccyx can easily get dislocated. So, probably even people in this room have had like the experience, you fall really hard on your butt, excruciating pain. That can actually have a subluxation or a dislocation of your coccyx. A lot of times you didn't even know, and sometimes it can be a problem, like during birth, it can actually change, how much room there is here. Yeah. Just little previews. Working back up here, try to make this bigger. I'm actually at maximum zoom, which just seems not right. I'd like to make it bigger, but I can't. So up here, what we often call, I can't think of the common name for it right now. Yeah, what people often call the collarbone is the clavicle. So this bone right here is the clavicle. It's the most commonly broken bone in the body. I broke mine when I was a teenager. So I was a wild one. I was riding an unbroken horse in the freezing ground. It threw me as unbroken horses do, and snap. But as we take this is not good. I don't know if that's true. That does not sound like a lot, but it wouldn't surprise me. Part of the issue, and we'll look at this when we look at the shoulder in detail, is that it's pretty amazing design. But this whole shoulder girdle and the whole arm connection to it, it's only actual real joint. It's only real articulation is right here, sternoclavicular. So this one tiny point. And so like if you do some kind of flip or fall and you land, head forward on your arm or whatever, like that's a lot of pressure on this little S-shaped bone, and it can snap like a twig. Yep. We're going to move over here. Gosh, I hope we don't run out of power. If you're zooming in, I'll try to switch computers, but I apologize. At some point, I'm going to lose you. Here we have the shoulder blade, right? It's called the scapula. We'll see a better view on the posterior as well, but we have this little bit that sticks out front. Hooray for it. This one broke. That's sad. That's just a model though. It would just be sad if it was in a human. Here we have our arm bone, or upper arm bone is called a humerus. This big bone right here is a humerus. And then we have, this is my buddy today. We have two arm bones in the lower body. On the thumb side, we've got the radius. Beautiful, those of you looking at your models and your own body. Gosh, this one's missing a thumb. It's just not easy being a model. So the lateral side is the radius on your thumb side. And then the medial side is your ulna. And if you follow that ulna, go ahead on your pinky side, feel that, trace that bone. You can feel how that's what makes your elbow. So your ulna's the one that goes up to your elbow, and the radius is on the lateral side. Questions so far? Oh, all right. So in the wrist, there's little, they say they're like dice-like bones, little bones. They're carpals. They all have names. We'll learn them, but you don't have to learn them today. If you hear things like pisiform, handmate, lunate, you get really excited. You might win a coffee or something at a drive up, you know, trivia. Metacarpals, or pass your board exam, you know, one of the two. Metacarpals, we learned this already, like from learning our feet, and then our phalanges, the PH with an F sound. Questions so far? All right, we're going back up again to our ribs. We'll take a look at this later, you know, but we have different types of ribs. We got true ribs, false ribs, floating ribs. We'll take a look at that later. Right in the middle, we've got our sternum. People often call that the breastbone. That's the one right here in the middle. And you can see the ribs go into your breastbone. Sternum is the anatomical name. How are we doing so far? You with me? Yes, thank you. So there's actually 3 bones here, and they all have names. And the one here at the bottom is called the xiphoid process, and it's spelled Xiphoid. And my brother thinks that'd be a great name for a band, so don't steal it. Yeah. All right, we're moving down. So in the lower body, we can call all of these fused bones here, we can call the whole thing the pelvis. We can also call them os coxa, and there's different fused bones here, and they each have a name. So when we study that area, we'll learn the specifics. We're just learning the general right now. But that's all the way from here, all the way down to here, all the way up here, that whole thing. So on yourselves, you could feel right on the, like the top is part of this. That's this part here you can palpate. And if you go to the front, you can palpate this right here. And if you put your hand under your butt and you lean forward and back, if you feel a bone, you're feeling these sits bones on the bottom, these ones right here.
The sacrum is considered part of the pelvis, or is that?
That's a great question. If you say the whole pelvis, you could consider the sacrum part of it. But if you say the os coxa, you're talking about these bones, not the pelvis, or not the sacrum. Oh.
Or it could be part of the pelvis.
Great question also. The vertebra are specifically these little bones. Yeah, and you don't call the sacrum a vertebra. Yeah, but they say it's at the base of the spine. All right, we are moving down to the biggest bone in the body. This big upper leg thigh bone is the femur, and that's our biggest bone in the body. And in our massage palpation, our prone routine, this is the part that you've been palpating around, this greater trochanter. Now I'll point on the screen too for our remote viewers. This is the greater trochanter. So this part in here with the ball and socket, it makes like a 7, is really deep, really deep. You cannot palpate that, but what you can palpate is this part here. And we massage all the way around it in that technique where we put a fist in there, and then we bring the leg up and do some medial and lateral rotation. You can work all around here because you have all these great hip rotators going around there like a bicycle spoke. How are we doing? Yes.
Is that word, the greater trochanter, is that referring to the bone landmark?
Yes, great question. Yes, so all of these bones, almost every surface has a name. Yes, and I'm not trying to overwhelm you right now with all the names, but that is a bony landmark here, the greater trochanter. And so that's where we take like area by area and learn all of the bony landmark names. But the reason I called that one out is because you're already massaging it. And I just wanted you to like really hone in on your models. And my model on how this ball and socket joint, this part here is really deep. And this is the part that you're palpating right here. but you can access all those muscles that attach there and release them. Yeah. Our bony landmarks are often a really great place to massage around because of all those attachments. And sometimes, especially like you're talking about big, strong muscles like the glutes, you know, sometimes somebody's got big, strong glute muscles and good, you know, fat and fascia in the area, whatever. Sometimes it can be hard to release in the biggest, most muscular part. Whereas if we are more specific and we target like those attachment sites, we can still release the whole muscle without, you know, having to maybe use quite as much strength and pressure. Question, comments? Something's percolating there.
I mean, like, we're gonna go over it. My whole thing is like, I even, especially with finding the right place to put my, like, I always feel like I'm hurting people, even though they're like, you're not even deep, but it's just like,
Yeah, you can feel it. I don't know.
no, I mean, like, when we were doing it yesterday, like, I don't know. I think it's just me. I'm in my head. I don't know. It's
Yeah.
just like when we're trying to feel for it, right?
Yeah.
And then like, I'm always like a little off until like I lift up the leg and then like
Yep.
rotate it. And then I feel like I need to go up or
Yeah.
lower.
Yeah. And that's totally, thank you for sharing that. That's totally common and to be expected at this stage in the game, right? Like we haven't studied the bony landmarks in detail. We haven't studied the muscles in detail. We're really just starting our palpation journey. So we're going to be practicing and studying these things a lot to where you're going to get so good that you're going to be able to find those things quickly on anybody. And they're going to be like, oh my God, how did you know? I didn't even know I was in pain there. And you're just going to find all the spots, right? But we're like, it's like a normal part of the process, right? Like we're just finding our way there slowly. Yep. Yep. So that's why we have 3 teachers. Also, just feel free to call us over anytime, right? Like someday you may feel confident that you found a certain thing, and then on another day, not so much, right? So we're just there to help you keep being like, okay, yep, that's it. Nope, it's this right over here. Yep. So you'll get it. You'll get very skilled at your palpation.
That's how I felt yesterday. I felt like the day before that I had it. And then yesterday, this whole top area, I'm like, different.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Over it.
All right, cool. So we're moving our way down. Thank you for sharing and asking. Our little bone on the front of our knee is called the patella. And that's this little bone right here. And that's a sesamoid bone. And, you know, you can feel in front of your own knee. And if you alternate between kind of bending and not bending, you can find the little bone to isolate in the front.
I just want to say on a happy note that my knees have been feeling better since we've been doing the compression.
Oh, good.
I mean, I'm still having problems, but I'm like, that's been making a difference.
Great. I heard from a lot of people checking in this morning that they really noticed a lot of things in their own bodies during the compression too. So part of the great thing about massage school is that you are on a journey of discovery and one could say healing in your own bodies as well. So, all right. The medial lower leg bone is the tibia. And that's the one we've been feeling when you've been feeling that bone right in the front. So that bone right in the front is part of the tibia. And then the one on the lateral side is your fibula. And that one's a little harder to palpate the like bony part because it's covered with muscle. You'll feel like your peroneals there. And then the foot should be review, but we have our tarsals are the sort of equivalent of the carpals, but of course we have some bigger tarsals because of the weight bearing of the foot. And then we have our metatarsals, these long ones, and then we have our phalanges. Would you guys like to practice labeling these before we look at the back? Yes? Okay. So I'm going to put us on pause here, and I'm going to check in with you. And Jaden, Erica, can you find unlabeled diagrams of bones to practice with, or your models? And if not, once I situate them, I will upload a scan of these. Or if you don't mind sharing your phone numbers, it'd be even faster for me to text you a document. Let me pause the recording while I pass this out. There's a question about, you know, when massaging around the greater trochanter, are we like right on the trochanter or where? I actually like to move the technique all around the trochanter. So part of it we're anterior to it, part of it we're superior to it, part of it we're posterior to it, and part of it we're inferior to it. And as we work our way around, as your palpation skills become attuned, you'll notice that there's harder or tighter spots. And those are areas that you can really focus. So as you're feeling your way around, you'll be like, okay, this is a good spot. I'm gonna like hang out in that, right? Yes.
Yeah, as we're rotating, and we feel that little indentation get deeper, do we want to press into that more, or just stay off to the side?
Yeah, that's a great question. So as you're medially and laterally rotating the leg, you know, using the foot and leg as a handle, when you feel the parts that are harder sticking out, those are the parts you're going to want to hang out with. And because we're basically doing a pin and stretch, as we move in and out, you know, there's going to be times when it gets like harder. And sometimes you actually need to back off a little bit, right? So you're kind of adjusting as you go. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Yes.
So is that an area where you're using your fist only, or do you do forearm near there?
Yep. You can use, I would say, an elbow as well, but you can use a forearm, but you probably more of the part that's right next to your elbow, just because you want to get really specific around there.
I don't think I was getting that specific with it. I was doing a lot of forearm stuff, and I think it probably felt good, but I don't think I was getting perfectly around that.
Yeah, I mean the forearms, you know, they can feel great in the glutes and so forth, but when you really want to isolate these muscles attaching, you could use a elbow or a fist. Yeah, there's kind of a rule of thumb in massage, and this is cheesy but effective, that you don't want to treat anything bigger than your thumb with a thumb, because you'll hurt your thumb. So if you're treating a bigger muscle, you're going to use a bigger tool. So I don't, you know, typically stick a thumb in there because we got some big, strong muscles. Yeah. All right, cool. Let's move on. All right. So again, there's different bones in the head. They all have names, but for now we can just call the whole kit and caboodle a cranium. And you can see, like in the back, this little triangle, like peace sign kind of symbol. Those are the sutures where the different bones stick together, right? So there's different bone names, but we don't need to go there yet. The mandible, this is just kind of a posterior view, right, of the part of the jawbone that you can see. Some of this, of course, is a repeat. You already were super on your vertebra. Our neck region are called cervical vertebra. The rib region of vertebra are called thoracic, and the lower back region are called lumbar. Our big triangular bone at the base, what's that? Beautiful. And inferior to that, the little tailbone. Beautiful. And both of those are actually different bones fused together. Questions so far? All right, our shoulder blade, what's that called? Beautiful. This whole thing is a scapula. This clavicle that you see, right, is the collarbone. And so that's really just this little bit, you know, you can see peeking out over there. It's really on the anterior side. And some of this is a repeat, right? You can see some of the same things on the back and the front. So our big upper arm bone, what's that called? Beautiful. And then in our lower arm, the one on the thumb side is beautiful. And there was some discussion in the back to help remember that. Your thumbs up, rad, is the radius side. So the thumbs up side is your radius.
And ulna and elbow kind of sound similar.
Ulna and elbow. So the elbow side is your pinky side is ulna. We got what are our wrist bones? Beautiful. And then the long ones, metacarpal's beautiful. And then the fingers, beautiful. You guys are rocking this. Then we have our ribs, obviously. We'll learn the different types later. We've got our pelvis, our hips. And then again, this is a review. This should go faster. What's the big bone of the lower leg? Beautiful. Femur, that's the biggest bone in your body. And then on our lower leg, the medial one, which is the big weight bearing one, is beautiful, tibia. And the lateral one, beautiful. And then our ankle bones, beautiful. You're getting specific. Good. They're also called tarsals. And then the longer ones are metatarsals, and then the toes are beautiful. Questions? A lot of repeat here on the back, but go ahead and write in your back bones, and our remote viewers, I will send you a picture of the back.